Welcome back everybody. In this video I'm going to be rounding up my favorite pieces of gear for the year. I had a look back through my YouTube channel history for the year and there were quite a few pieces of gear that I simply just forgot that I did demos of. A lot of this stuff is used gear that I acquired on the cheap and decided to demo. A bunch of it was things that I borrowed, some of it was demo stock from a music store, some of it was stuff that I was sent by manufacturers, and some of it is stuff that I was just so excited and so impressed with that I went out and bought it new. So, before I get into this, I want to talk about the honorable mentions, and then I'm going to do my all-round top 5. So there were a couple of products that really came out of the blue for me that really impressed me. I'll get started with the Mooer 012 micro preamp. This is based around a Friedman BE model. I'm a real big fan of the Mooer micro pre's. The price point that they are hitting is pretty amazing and they sound really good for the money. Out of all the ones that I've tried, the 012, which I believe now is called the USA Gold. I've got a slightly earlier one called the Fried Mayan or something like that, which I'm sure Dave Friedman wasn't very happy about. But yeah, it just sort of does what it says on the tin. So there is an honorable mention for that one. Another one is the Marshall Origin. A lot of you guys requested this video and there was a lot of hype around it and it immediately got a really big response. Thank you so much to Mega Music here in Perth for hooking me up with a demo version of that. I only had the amp for about 24 hours, but I managed to knock out a couple of videos with it. And this one really polarized opinion. I think a lot of you expected it to just sound like a cranked plexi in a box. And that's definitely not the intent with that one. It's definitely not an amp for everybody. To me, the way I see this is it's kind of like if you're used to using a Marshall amp, you're probably somebody who gets the gain and most of the tone from the amp, as opposed to people who use a pedal platform. So this is like a pedal platform for people who don't normally use pedal platforms. I think it did the job of being a pedal platform really good. I think it sounded great through a 4x12 and I'm really looking forward to hopefully demoing the 20 or the 50 watt version in the new year. But yeah, that one was really interesting in that it was quite polarizing. I liked it though, so it goes on my honorable mentions list. Another amp, I didn't buy this new, and this amp is a few years old now, is a Stereotone Son of Yeti. I was blown away by this little amp. Only 22 watts, I think, with 6 V6s, and a lot of you guys reacted really positively to that demo. And I have to say, if you're looking for a lunchbox head to do modded Marshall tones, that is the one. Go and get one. It sounds amazing. A product that I was really looking forward to this year that definitely makes it onto the honorable mentions list, this one will probably come in at number 6 or 7 if I did a longer list, it's a Fractal X-Load. It is built like a tank, it's got a great two-way voicing switch, and I use it all the time in my studio. Really happy that I went and bought one of those. It ended up replacing my 2-Notes Captor, which I was super impressed with. That's a great product, especially for the money. I think for like 300 Australian dollars, it's pretty much unbeatable at that price point. But after A-Bing them, I really preferred the sound of the Fractal. A pedal that I didn't give a whole lot of attention to this year, I only did a single demo video as it was part of a small run, was the Anarchy Audio FTK Overdrive. I have their Gain of Tones Overdrive, which is loosely based around a modified Marshall Bluesbreaker circuit, like the Analog Man King of Tone, but it kind of pulls the whole thing in a different direction. So I love the Gain of Tones, and I also really like germanium drives, and this one kind of slams all of those together into a small enclosure. I will do a more in-depth video with that one in the new year, I think, just because I'm a big fan of the pedal, and I love with germanium drives where you can turn your volume control down and it still retains all the sort of clarity that you like coming from your guitar. So it's a really good addition. Running that into something like a Marshall JTM 45 is a recipe for tonal bliss, in my opinion, so that one definitely makes it onto the honorable mentions list as well. So for this video, Mooer also made the honorable mentions list again. I tried a GE200 recently, and like I was saying, there's a bunch of things that I think could be done better on it, but considering the price point, it's a really impressive piece of gear, and there are some great tones in there, so the GE200 definitely gets a mention. And finally, Mercurial's Spark plugin, which I know has been around for a while, but I didn't get around to demoing it until this year, and the Fortin Nameless Suite. They are two of the best sounding amp plugins that you can get for your DAW. They do very different things. I think that Spark is more aimed towards a sort of vintage and classic rock, hard rock kind of part of the market, and Fortin's Nameless is an absolute metal machine. Both of them come in at around $100. I think Spark's a little bit cheaper, the Fortin's a little bit more, but if you're looking for a great plug-in, those two should definitely be on the list, especially if you like plexitones. Alright, so that wraps up the honorable mentions. Let's get into the top 5. Coming in at number 5, this was a pedal I am so glad was released. It's the Boss DC2W. I went into depth with this one with a demo. As soon as I could get my hands on one of these, I went out and bought it. Basically, there were very few actually bought into Perth, and they were pretty hard to get. So rather than jump on eBay, I basically rang up my local music store and said, hey, when you guys get one of these, whenever they're available, I want one. I'll pay whatever for it. And it came out to be a little bit more expensive than I initially anticipated, but for what it does, especially the SDD modes, it was worth it. It was an absolute vanity purchase, but I've always wanted an original DC2, and I think Boss really nailed the reissue. It's the chorus for people who don't like chorus. So if you don't like chorus pedals, but you might have to get one or something like that, depending on the sort of tones that you're going for, definitely go and check out the DC2W. Boss absolutely nailed it with that one. Coming in at number 4 is the Line 6 HX Effects. I was stoked to be able to get my hands on a demo model of this from Mega Music. Again, I only had it for about 24 hours, but it took me about 5 minutes to get to grips with it. The interface, especially if you're coming from a Helix, I'm not coming from a Helix, I'm using the Fractal AX8 and Axe-FX 3, and I'm not very well acquainted with that particular interface, but I think the interface on the Helix and the HX in particular is amazing. It's so intuitive, it's so easy to get up and running, and if I was a person who wasn't using modeling and I just wanted a unit to connect to my amp, this would be right near the top of the list for me. I think the Minotaur drive in it sounds amazing. I think having all the M series legacy effects is really, really handy, and you know, cool stuff like snapshots and the touch sensitive capacitative, I think I said that right, foot switches are really, it's just a really nicely put together multi-effects. I think it's right near the top of the ball game when it comes to multi-effects units. So the HX Stomp comes in at number 4, great product from Line 6. I mentioned Mercurial's Spark plugin and the Fort Nameless before, but just sneaking in, I think I demoed this right at the start of January, so it still counts, even though it came out last year, is Reaxis by Mercurial Audio. Being able to have a tri-axis in your DAW is one of my favorite things ever. Being able to nail Mesa Mark series tones with that. They didn't model my favorite revision of the tri-axis, but it doesn't matter. The yellow 2C Plus mode is in there, the clean modes are in there, and they've released an update where you can load your own IRs in there. I find the power amp simulation a really handy tool just in general use. Like say I want to get metal zone sort of tone happening in my DAW, I can use either a metal zone and just connect it to my audio interface and then use the power amp simulation in Reaxis, or I can use like a metal zone plugin, like Audified recently came out with a plugin which features a metal zone in there, which sounds really good. So those two together is like instant Swedish death metal tone. Not that I know anything about Swedish death metal, but it's kind of fun to just sit there and chug in drop C. And yeah, overall Reaxis, it's, like I said, this was like a toss-up between the Fort Nameless and Reaxis for me, but because I actually own Reaxis, I think that one just slightly edges it. They're both amazing sounding plugins, but yeah, I just love being able to get the Mesa Mark series tones in there. The built-in effects are really good, especially the chorus and being able to have like a stereo widening effect. The reverbs sound really good, the delays sound really good. The power amp simulation is really good. They're spot on with the tri-axis emulation as well. So number 3, Reaxis by Mercurial Audio. I absolutely love that plugin. I use it all the time when I'm writing and noodling around. And yeah, for a plugin, it sounds amazing. Coming in at number 2, if you're at all familiar with the channel and you've been keeping up with it, you know that I have been using this guitar a lot in my videos, and it is the STR LJ1. I bought one of these, I think in March. Bought it over from, this was before I went to Japan. I imported this one, and yeah, it just came out of the box immaculate, perfect setup, perfect finish. It rivals my like high-end PRS stuff, which is pretty amazing. And I slapped a set of Martin A. Smith pickups in there. He's a local pickup manufacturer here in Perth, so shout out to Martin. He does great stuff. So I've got a P90 style pickup in the neck and a humbucker in the bridge, And I absolutely love my PRS SC245. That thing is the chunk machine for modern sort of tones, and my STR sort of leans more towards the vintage voicing, which is why I love it. I've played a lot of shows with that thing, I've recorded a lot of demos and done a lot of writing on it, and I just can't speak highly enough about the craftsmanship and the tone of that guitar. So yeah, go back and watch some videos where I'm using the STR. I think it absolutely stacks up to guitars 2 or 3 times the price, and that is my number 2 in my Gear of the Year roundup. And the big number 1, you know, this isn't really a big reveal. You guys probably already know what this is, but it's the Axe FX3 by a country mile, I would have to say. You know, if I could do like a top 10, this would be the top 5 slots. I have so much content around the Axe FX3 on my channel that I won't harp on about it too much, but you know, it's just kind of taken what Fractal audio does to another level altogether, from the amp modeling to the effects to the interface to the way it integrates in my studio. I cannot wait to see how this product develops coming up in the years to come with firmware updates, and I can't wait to get a foot controller and to use it live. So numero uno, the Axe FX3. Like I said, got a lot of videos. Go and watch my video about whether you should or shouldn't buy one. Hopefully that is illuminating, and that is my Gear of the Year. Thank you guys so much for watching. Well, that's no good. The battery just died. I was going to say, though, thank you to all you guys who have subscribed over the last year, and all you guys who have been here since day one. It really means a lot to hear from you guys regularly. Thank you so much for your input. I think there's a great community building around this channel, a lot of positive discussion, there's lots of respect. It's what I'm all about. It's all about just trying to get great guitar tones and trying to have as little bullshit as possible in the way that we approach them. So thank all of you guys. As always, if you like the channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing it. 2019, I imagine, will be an even bigger year for guitar gear, so I'm super pumped about that. And of course, let me know in the comments what were your 5 favorite pieces of gear that you either bought or tried this year. I would love to hear from you, because no doubt there are loads of pieces of gear that I totally missed out on checking out. Thank you guys so much. I will see you all around soon.